Welcome back. You're watching Luck on Sunday. I hope you're enjoying the show. Welcome back to the show with magic numbers 12 today, 12 times champion trainer, and 12 editions now of the Pendle Novices Chase at Kempton yesterday. Paul Nicholls, a race that's been very good to you. In dark times, it has come to your rescue.
Dark times, yeah. That's quite laughable, really, isn't it? It's good. You know, he's a good horse. He was perfect for that race, and to win it 12 times, I was looking at the horses yesterday, it's incredible, really. And, a lot of those horses went on and did some special things afterwards, so I'm hoping Pictoria follow them.
He's quite a sort of explosive horse, isn't he? He's fun to watch when he gets it right.
Yeah, yesterday was probably the best he's jumped, and when he needed a big one at the last, he delivered and quickened and did that very nicely.
Harry Cobden, I thought, gave him a very assured ride, drilled him into the last with someone who's riding with enough confidence, considering...
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's riding very well at the moment, and considering we've just been a little bit quiet, he's riding the top of his game. This jump at the last you needed that to go and win, and the horse delivered and galloped on strong. So I'm not sure he'd have done this 12 months ago. He's probably still been rolling, but he's got the hang of it now. Look at that, what a wing! So that was good. It's just amazing the importance of a flat track for that horse, rather than a stiff track like Sandown the last day. Much better for him.
So that suggests that places like Cheltenham are never really going to be in it.
No, he's not going to go to Cheltenham. We go to Aintree now. I wish I hadn't run him at Sandown now after the other day, but this was always our target, and then go on to Aintree. That's where we'll go now. He's a high-class horse when he gets it right, obviously.
I joked really when I said he was a ray of light in the dark times, and you said it's laughable, really. The problem is when you set yourself incredibly high standards and people expect you to be winning metronomically. Can you understand why everyone goes, what's happened to Nicholls, if you have a run of bad form?
Yeah, I do. And we're always a little bit quieter after Christmas, this year more so than normal. And some horses had been disappointing. We obviously had a little bit of a problem, which we haven't really identified. I just got a feeling that for whatever reason this year, some of them took a little bit longer to get over having their flu jab, which we always do in January. Yeah. It's never been a problem before. And we did find a little bit of a mineral imbalance in the feed, which we've sorted, but only minor. Nothing's ever been ill or sick or had dodgy track washes or anything like that. So, and again, a bit of better spring weather, better ground. We're up and running again now. And I think 3 of the last 7 have won or something like that. And we're going forward. And I looked this morning. I was just thinking, because you keep reading all this stuff and listening to it. We're actually nearly on £2 million prize money before Cheltenham. Well, I think pretty well every time we've done that, we've had a great season. So, collectively over a long time, it's good, and we'll get up and running really strongly from now to the end of the season. We just had a little blip. And
I guess if you've been doing it that long, you have the self-belief to know that you don't really need to change anything, or do doubts start to creep in a little bit?
Well, you don't change anything. You just try and make sure everything is right, i.e. we checked all the food and we just had a look at a few different things to see if we did have a problem, because you want to. We don't change anything because the system we got is worked. And it's just one of those things. And I mean, from time to time over your career, you're always going to, we've been there before and we'll be there again. You just get that quiet spell. And then you run a number of horses you probably haven't run up to Christmas. They're not quite good enough and expectations are too high, and some of them can be. And it's just where it is. But, we're back far now. If the good ones keep winning, that's all that matters, really.
109 winners at 23%. Yeah. If I'd said to you at the beginning of the season, right, we'll be sitting here in February, 109 winners, 23%, would you have said, yeah, that's pretty much par?
Yeah, and as I said, 2 million, very nearly 2 million in prize money up to now. So, that's good. I mean, that's if we stuck to that all the time, we'd be well happy. We had been going up to Christmas to about 29%. I think we probably was a little bit too high, and then, of course, it drops off. But, if you look at everyone else's statistics in the paper, I'd say we're very happy and very pleased with where we are, and we'll just get going now.
All right, so you know what prize money level you're at. How important is prize money to you and to your owners, do you think? To what extent does it drive their interest in the game, and how big a deal actually is it?
Well, I think it's more important to me is that if you're trying to win the Trainers' Championship, which is, at this stage of the season you're looking at trying to do. Obviously, competitive, we want to defend that. Every pound counts, really, and there is some good prize money out there. Obviously, it was good prize money yesterday, a lot of good prize money races, and to me, sometimes that prize money thing gets overplayed a little bit, because I'd say the majority of my owners are in the game because they enjoy it. It's a fantastic game. It's their hobby. It's their life away from their businesses, and they really enjoy it. And if they can win some good prize money, obviously all helps. But they don't go out paying lots of money for horses just because they want to go and win pots of money. They do it because they really enjoy the game, the people are in it, as I said, the horses and the sport. So it's an important thing, but it can often be overplayed a little bit, I think. I
mean, to what extent are you very conscious of the fact that you have to give owners experience as well as winners?
The whole package. They want to, so it's not just about race day. They like to see videos and clips of horses schooling, updates and communication, and let them know what's going on. And I like to think they all feel part of Team Ditchit, the whole experience really, and look after them.
So this year you started out, thought you had a really exciting collection of horses to go forward with. At this stage of the season, do you still believe you've got the talent to compete against the best Irish stables?
Well, that's obviously going to be hard if you just look at the horses that they've got at the moment. But there are horses coming through, and will always be evolving horses. Look at Brave Man's Game and Stage Star. They're two examples of two really good young horses that are coming through. And then the Frodon was still winning this year, and Clan des Bow. They are getting a bit older now, so we need to look at the next generation. But they're all capable of competing, as Frodon and Clan did in the last 12 months in those Grade 1 races in Ireland.
And Brave Man's Game, he was well beaten at the Cheltenham Festival last year. Do you believe that is in any way a fair reflection of his natural ability level?
No, because, horses mature. He was a great big scopy chasing horse who probably was a bit immature last year. He's physically improved. He will do so again this summer. It's not all about them being novice hurdlers when they're 5 years old. It's about the future and being, to me, at the top of the game when they're 8, 9, 10, running in King George's and Gold Cups. That's when you want them at their best.
But when you took him to Cheltenham last year, this horse Brave Man's Game, and he was brushed aside by Bollinger, I remember you were disconsolate because you were like, hang on, this is one of my best horses. I thought I had him absolutely spot on, and something's just gone by him like he's standing still. Was that kind of just the heat of the moment?
Well, I think, because if you're competitive, if you just played any game and you got beat, you're disappointed because you're out there trying to win, and we had a great belief in him. You can see why. He's unbeaten this year, and what has he rated? 164, which tells its own story. But he got beat last year, and, Bob Bollinger made him look fairly ordinary. He went past Harry like he was stood still, and Harry couldn't believe what he saw happening. But, sometimes perhaps Bob Bollinger, we'll see, might not train on like Brave Man's Game is trained on. He might have been at his best and more mature last year than, horses do mature at different times and can be at their best at different times. And we all sort of tend to think, I like to look at the longevity of horses. It can be Clan des Bow and Frodon and all those old horses still winning at the top of their game when they're 10 and 11 years old, not just when they're 5. So you have to train them accordingly.
Don't you think that part of the skill of the game is revising your opinion if you think you were wrong in the first instance? So you don't just take an entrenched view as soon as the race is over and stick to that view. You kind of reconsider it and think again.
Absolutely, nothing's set in stone. You never stop learning about the horses. You've got to listen to everybody involved, from the Scott Marshall who rides them every day to Harry, and you have to keep listening. And of course, you can't be stubborn and just think I know and that's the way it's going to be. You've got to be prepared to change, have different views. Of course, you have.
Yeah, because you've always got like a little theory, it seems to me, about each horse. Sometimes it's not right, but there's always an idea with a horse.
Yeah, you always got to have a plan, always have in your mind. Like, for me, I may be wrong, but I've always felt for the last 2 years that next year's King George, or this year's King George, will be absolutely made for Brave Man's Game. That would be the most perfect scenario I could see for him. And we're going along that route as what I think. I might be wrong, but that's just, I've always had that in my mind and a plan.
We've talked about this a little bit before, but obviously everybody evolves and their operation evolves. You evolve with your own sort of levels of, happiness and confidence in your job. Do you think people around you now who'll challenge you? Do you encourage people to challenge you now?
Yeah, well, Clifford and I are always talking. Every night we still go around the horses together, and every night that's probably one of the most important times between 4 and 5 o'clock. And then we go around all of them, and we'll have a little chat, and he'll have his opinion, I'll have my opinion, and we might say, well, Harry's just said this to us, and you never stop talking about them, and you've got to listen to everything. But you've also got to have belief in what you do yourself and your team, and how you've always done things, and just keep following along. We just take in little, loads of crumbs make a cake. I've always said that. You've got to try and get it right.
Yeah, and of course you're the one that has to take the cake out of the oven at the end of the day.
Yeah, so. and we make things wrong, be prepared to realise you'd got it wrong and change it.
Can you think of anything you've got wrong lately, particularly?
No, yeah, no, you always make mistakes. You know, you just got to learn from them and go forward. And yeah, you always, like, I wish I hadn't run Peak Dory now at Sandown, but we'd believed all week the ground was good. Andrew had watered because it had been a dry spell, then it rained and the ground ended up going more testing than we thought. And in hindsight, I look back and think, well, perhaps I should have run Braidman's Game there. It was a 2.5 mile Grade 1, a lot of money, and let Peak Dory go straight to yesterday for a pendle, but it didn't work like that. But I look back and think, well, perhaps I should have done that. But there's no point looking back. You've got to look forward.
And that's really what has characterised you completely. Yeah. You're on the front foot. You want to do it. You want to run. Your instinct is to run horses, isn't it? Yeah. That's what you want to do. You don't want to sit there and not
run them in the right races. But you also got to, you've got to look after all your owners, the horses, have a plan, and try and let it all fit in so it all suits everybody.
So I want to tackle this Cheltenham question because it strikes me that you're having a bit of an internal conflict at the moment with yourself over this. Like there's part of you that wants to be so competitive and wants to win every race there because it is the meeting that the whole National Hunt spotlight is on, and there's a bit of you that thinks I don't want to go there and get my pants taken down. How are you reconciling those two things at the moment?
It was trying to get the balance right, isn't it? And look at and run the right horses. All those years ago, well, not that long ago, when I had Denman, Big Works, Masterminded, Celestial Halo, we had the strong team then, and you were competing in those top. And funny enough, the easiest races to win at the Cheltenham are the Grade 1s when you've got the best horse, because if you do your job right, they win those races. When you're talking about handicappers in the smaller races, it's not quite so easy because obviously 30 runners in a handicap, in theory, all 30 could win, whereas in a handicap, in a Grade 1, the best horse should win. So the Grade 1s are actually easy. So if you haven't got those Grade 1 horses, or like at a particular time, you're going to struggle a fraction because, this year I won't have a run in the Gold Cup because I haven't got anything good enough or suitable to run. Like Clan and Frodon would not be good enough to run in this year's Gold Cup, and doesn't suit them. We can go elsewhere with them. So you have to try and box clever a little bit. And of course, I'd love to have a run in every race and try and win every race, but it's not happened. It just depends on the depth of your squad and what you got. And at the moment, the strength in numbers and the top horses is in Ireland, but it'll change.
Why is that?
Well, there's lots of reasons. I mean, you could say the same 10 years ago when I had all those horses in Pratsniki, we were doing really well. You could have said the same question, why is that? We just ended up buying, I think we probably had the people to buy the right horses at the right time, and now at the moment, that's gone the other way in Ireland. They seem to have the buying power and seem to be buying most. I mean, nearly every sale now, you go to, in not all the time, but most of the time, like Gordon or Willie, particularly Gordon, buys the top lot every single sale. So, the best team of players, as it were, at the moment is in Ireland. But
you've got owners with the resources to spend serious money if they need to spend the serious money. But somehow they're not getting the right materials off the production line.
Well, we're trying it, obviously, and we bought some nice horses. Not all my owners like buying at the sales; they would rather buy privately, which makes things a little bit more difficult.
Is that because those boutique auctions have become such a big deal? They've become so important.
They have. But we bought some. We've been getting back to buying some nice horses that'll come out over the next 2 or 3 years. And like Peak Dory is a great example of a nice horse that we bought in France, who's come through and done very well, and we got plenty more. But it's also a numbers game. Don't have the numbers. Willie and Gordon, and in particular those two. Probably Henry hasn't quite so many. They seem to have huge numbers of horses in all those top horses. Huge numbers, not just one. They have a huge number of horses. So it's a numbers game as well, which is a big advantage, as opposed to relying on one. Yeah, and I've got some guys who'll spend plenty of money, but you've got to be selective, and it's got harder and harder to buy those horses.
I was interested in sort of a sort of project that you're developing with Will Biddick of producing these younger horses. Now, is that in a sense a response to the efficiency of the way that Irish point-to-point producers are filtering their talent? i.e., if you've got a big bulk of stores that you're bringing on yourself, you've got a system underneath you whereby you can identify the real stars in that group early. Yeah,
and it's another way of producing nice young horses and coming through. So last summer, I think we've got 23 now 4-year-olds with Will. I tend to give them lots of time. None of those will run this year. They'll all run in the autumn and perhaps end up having a couple of 3 bumper runs next season, and then novice hurdle when they're 5. So you could end up with horses like Stage Star, McFabulous, Henry II, who's unbeaten this year, Nappers Hill, those type of horses that are all coming on through. Then they get into your system, and you've got a chance of, hopefully one day along that system will end up with a horse that might be good enough to run in a Gold Cup and be own produced, really. And we've been doing that now for a number of years, and it's been paying off. We've been getting some good results.
And I can see your ex-assistant Dan Skelton doing something similar, where he's trying to get into horses younger and start to source the talent earlier, sort of home grow it almost.
But it's not so easy to buy those horses back along when we bought Cordo Star and Masterminded and Big Bucks and all those horses. There wasn't such there weren't so many people buying those horses. They could have a few runs. You knew you were buying nice horses.
Isn't the truth of it a little bit that at that time you had a bit of a monopoly on wealth? Like you had a bit of a monopoly on the...
I did. Basically, it was only John Hales and Clive Smith who bought those horses at that time.
Yeah.
But those horses then...
And Andy
there was
Stewart,
no
I
one,
suppose.
and Andy Stewart. There was no one else competing against you. They put a price on them. I think most of those horses then cost €400,000, which is basically what they're all costing now. They were probably the cheapest horses they ever bought. But there was no opposition to buy them, really, then. But there is now. If one of those horses... Well, in fact, they never get to that point was because of Coulter and Denman and... Sorry, not Denman, Mastermind and Neptune. They'd held 3 or 4 runs, so you knew they were fairly decent. They weren't just one run and you had to take a gamble. They were good, and you were able to buy them. And it was a lot easier then. But now, of course, everyone's followed what we did, and they all go to France. So in France, it's nearly impossible to buy a horse like that.
Yeah.
So we thought, well, instead of spending £400,000 every time on those horses, why not buy a €120,000 store? And if you buy some nice horses like that, develop our own system. And I enjoy doing it. It's a bit more time-consuming, needs a lot of patience. And the owners have got to be on board that you're going to just take your time with them. But it seems to be working.
Now, Henrietta Knight's in the green room. Have you had a chat with her
I've had a chat with her, yeah.
Because, unfortunately, we are still labouring in this particular studio under COVID health and safety regulations, which means that I'm not allowed to have more than one person in the studio at any one time, which is unfortunate, because I was rather hoping I could get the two of you to debate her thoughts in the paper earlier in this week, where she talked about the relative levels of, well, professionalism and ability and preparation of horses in Britain and Ireland, and said that sort of Ireland really held sway in all respects. What was your reaction to that?
Well, I was surprised she said it, to be honest with you, and I'm just talking, I guess it's probably been taken a little bit out of context. I don't think she thought it was going to be on the front page of the Racing Post and made such a big thing of it. And, there's been a lot of talk about it all week, and I disagree with it completely. And of course, all my colleagues do as well, really, because, we're a professional, we know what we're doing, we run the job properly, and, to say that the trainers were better, the jockeys were better, the staff were better, which all implied, is probably, I think it caught her on a silly moment, to be honest with you, and I was just teasing her about that, because she knows full well, she spent a lot of time with us, she loves coming to us, we do things properly. Everybody does things properly, but they're two totally different ways of, always have been, of life and where horses come along, So we would treat our youngsters no different to what they do probably in Ireland, except they end up running in point to points. We have a good team of people, everybody does. So, I think probably she regrets, I bet if you ask her, she probably regrets it.
I'm going to in a minute.
I'm ashamed she can't be in here with us now.
Yeah.
But, she's obviously been in the game for a long time, and she knows full well that we do the job properly. Of course we do.
What do you think you do best at your yard?
We're training winners, I hope. That's at the end of the day is what we've done. I think now we're pretty well trained 3,400 winners, so our record speaks for itself. And that's what you've got to do, is year in, year in, keep producing winners, and that's what the game's all about.
Yeah, but in terms of the actual mechanics of how the place operates, because I go into 50, 60, 70 yards around the country. Everyone's a little bit different. There's different fields, different atmosphere, the feed's slightly different, the work's slightly different, the regime's slightly routine. Lots of different ways of getting horses fit and well and healthy. Lots of different ways of managing. What are the key strengths that have made you champion trainer for 12 years?
Well, having a great team. I call it Team Ditcher. You have to have a great team around you. If you haven't got a good team headed up by, like, Clifford Baker, and then you think of the assistants I've had, it work for me. And I've got Harry now, who's about to move, but Dan Skelton, Harry Fry, all those different people that have been part of the team, Christian Williams, Honeyball, those sort of people. They've all been great trainers, have been part of the team, and you use those to help your business. As I said, you're only as good as the players in your team, and you've got to have a good team around you.
But they don't just drop down out of the sky by accident. You get those people because you find them, you source them. There must be the characteristics in them that you like as people, otherwise they either wouldn't stick around, or you wouldn't find them in the first place, or you wouldn't employ them. So what are you looking for in those people?
Well,
what do you like in people?
Well, all those top people that are with me, apart from the assistants move on training, my main team have been with me and stay there all the time. They're professional people who work hard, and want the same goal as me. You don't mind how many hours they work. They want the horses to have the best of everything, and us to be a very successful team and make sure everything in that team is right.
Is it mindset as well? Are you looking for a certain kind of mindset? Because you're someone who's always pushing forward and always on the front foot.
Yeah. Well, you want that's fair.
You don't want people who are too cautious.
No, people got to be positive, and people. There's no point being negative about things. You've got to be positive and work hard and have the same work ethic, I suppose, as Clifford and I. Clifford, he's an integral part of the team as of his head lad. He gets on with his job and organises things. And like Harry Durham has been assistant, and Charlie Davis is now taken on from him. They're all people that work hard and put a lot into it, and want to do well at the end of the day and achieve great things, really.
And when we spoke last, you I think you'd already kind of emerged from that period. You were talking. There was that period where you were like, it was all getting on top of you a bit. Are you completely shackle free now in that respect? Are you feeling totally?
Yeah, I think you're always under pressure. You always want to do better. You're always trying to achieve things that can always. Even now, Cliff and I would always. Is there anything we could do just to improve things a little bit, and to get some better results, or do whatever. But pressure, you have to deal with pressure all the time. And in coping with pressure is, I think I've learned over the years. I'd like to think I've got better at doing that. And there's a huge amount of pressure to run the business and keep being successful and dealing with like a sort of month like we've just had now and all those different things. And I used to let it worry me, as we've had the conversation in the past.
Yeah.
But no, I don't now. Not as much anyway. You still, of course, you worry about it. That's wrong to say, but not as much. And you try to be more positive and try and enjoy it a lot more.
I mean, who do you look to kind of inspire you like that? When you're thinking, when you think to yourself, what would so and so do? Who would be the person or the people that you would have looked to think, right, put myself in their position, they'd know the right thing to do here?
Oh, that's a difficult one, because I think you've got to follow your own your own route, your own path, what you feel and how I deal with it. And, that's the only way forward. Really. You can't be thinking about what other people are doing and what they might have done. You've got to try and do the right thing yourself. And obviously, I think we got it fairly right over the years. And you learn from all those experiences you've had. You never do stop learning. From day to day with the horses, you never stop learning and dealing with people and owners and things. But experience helps you work those things out because you've been there before.
And we've had this sort of standing joke about. I know. It's no laughing matter to you, the Trainers' Championship, but we have this sort of. There's been a standing joke over the years about the extent to which it drives you. I mean, how overriding is it now?
Well, it's not overriding. I mean, yeah, of course, it's not, it's nice being champion trainer. Of course, it is, and you don't. It's like if a team wins a Premiership and a Championship, they want to do the same again the next year. It doesn't always happen. But funny enough, it's easier in a lot of ways to concentrate on trying to win the Trainers' Championship than it is to have winners at Cheltenham nowadays.
Gotcha. Because
if I'm clever and Buck's clever now, I need a good April because I think I don't know whether 350 or 400,000 in front of Dan and Nicky. Well, that's one race at Cheltenham, if you think about it. So it's all to play for still now. But April's a month when it counts. When you try, you try and win as many races as you can. So if we're going to win the Trainers' Championship this year, we've got to be clever and try and win some races at Cheltenham, but also have plenty of ammunition to win those races in the last month of April.
So are you already preparing the kind to kind of 2nd battalion, if you like, to kind of take over and sweep through that back end?
Aintree is massive, so I've sort of. Looked, know full well that pretty well every race at Aintree we could have a runner in, and there's Ayr, and then there's Cheltenham, and there's Sandown. We've got lots of horses that can run in all those races where we might not have quite some money to run at Cheltenham. And a lot of ways for me, if Gordon and Willie and all the other guys come over and beat Nicky and Dan all week, then I'll have a little smile on my face. But at this point, so I know full well we're going to struggle to have Cheltenham winners. We all are. We're all up against it, and we've got some nice horses to run, but. For me, if we could just continue the season and end up winning the Trainers' Championship, it would be another fantastic season.
How much are you really hanging your hopes on Brave Man's game? I mean, how, in your mind, much more talented do you think he is than, say, the vast majority of your yard? Is he really right at the top and way in front of anything else in your mind? Well,
I think he probably is in the novice chase at that 3 mile division. Obviously, yes, he is. He's rated high, now, and he's done nothing wrong, and he's a bright hope for us, you know. But as I said, he got beat last year, and he could well get beat again this year, because that's horse racing. But I think not just Cheltenham, there's a lot more to come from him from the future. He's definitely physically going to improve with another summer. And, you know, he's a smart horse, and chasing was always going to bring out the best of him.
Are there horses in there bubbling under that you think we're not giving enough attention to because they haven't had the same sort of...
Well, Stage Star is obviously a very smart horse. I mean, he's followed virtually the same route as what Brave Man's Game did. He won the Challow, he's unbeaten over hurdles, good bumper horse, and, you know, he's progressive, and Harry was thrilled with him the last day he won, and who knows how good he might be. We'll know at Cheltenham. But he's another horse next year to go chasing. He'll be a lovely horse.
Now, see, this was one that you ummed and ahed about. Oh, do I go to Cheltenham? Don't I go to Cheltenham? Is there something in his progress since the Challow that's made you think this is the right thing to do?
It's definitely improved since then, physically, and some of his work's been really good. We were going to go to Exeter, I think it was last week, and then we were going to make a plan whether we went to Cheltenham, depending on how he ran, or whether we went to Aintree. Obviously, by not going to Exeter, you know, the obvious route is to go down. He'd probably go to Cheltenham and Aintree now. He hasn't had run since Christmas. He's definitely improving horse.
Where are you going to run 3 under 3.5 at the festival?
He runs against Brave Man's Game in the Browning Advisory. The owners are dead keen. Max is dead keen to run in that and keep Adrian on him, so that's where he's going. He's a no-back number. He's tough, and he keeps on finding probably not as flashy a horse as Brave Man's Game, but he keeps on winning.
I'm sort of sensing you said that with a little bit of a heavy heart. Was there a bit of you that would like to split them up?
Yeah, of course I think you would. And if I was given a free hand, I'd probably run him in the staying novice chase, for the amateur riders. And I know Will Biddick would love to ride him, but I get the point. Also, the owners want to run him in that with Adrian on him, so there's no point all falling out and arguing about it. That's where he's going to go.
Of course, last year all those amateur races were professionally ridden. You have been a great supporter of the amateur branch of the sport. Your daughter Megan rode in point to points. Your daughter Olive's currently riding in point to points. You've been a great friend and supporter of David Maxwell, as he has to you. Is that a side of the sport you still feel quite passionately about?
Yeah, I do. It's great. You said Megan started. Olive's now riding, and we got some good amateurs in the yard. And David Maxwell, he's a proper amateur, isn't he? He loves it, and he's got some nice. And he's actually got 2 nice chances at Cheltenham for us in Cat Tiger and the Kim Muir, who won at Ascot the other day, and Bob and Co. had a nice run last week at Haydock in the Fox Hunters. So, yeah, he's looking forward to it, and he deserves all the success he gets because he puts a lot of money into it. He sees it as a great game, and he's a proper amateur.
It's quite interesting because you're such a hardened professional and you're desperate for winners. Here's a guy who, through sheer determination and hard work, has ridden a lot of winners. But by his own admission, Dave would say he's not the world's most talented jockey. You seem to be 4 square behind him all the time, and it doesn't frustrate you that sometimes he may have lost races that he ought to have won or whatever.
Yeah, you might just think that for a minute, but at the end of the day, you realise that he pays the bills, that they're his horses, and you can hardly have an argument with him about it. And he's the first to admit if he's done something wrong, he's the first to admit it. But just the pleasure he got from Cat Tiger winning at Ascot that day.
You got a big kick out of that.
Yeah, that was good for him and for the horse, and probably should have won at Doncaster the time before. He'll admit that, but that's why he's an amateur and why he loves the game. And for him to win that day, Ascot was good, and. He's a very good man. He's a nice man. Everybody likes him, and you can't, he gets plenty of abuse when things go wrong. But I get plenty of abuse when things go wrong. You just turn a blind to it and go forward.
Yeah, which could be a sort of motif really for your career. You're off to Fontwell this afternoon.
Yeah.
You still enjoy going racing?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I don't go all the time, obviously, because I actually still enjoy working at home. And as I said earlier, going around the yard with Clifford and trying to work things out. But yeah, weekends, good meetings, I love going.
Montmiral's quite an important horse this afternoon as well.
Yeah, it's really his first run of the season. In a lot of ways, he ran it in the 5-10-5th, and initially I was very disappointed with the way he ran. Sean said he was never going, but somehow at an early stage in the race he got struck into, ended up at the vets for the next month, really, and he was very lucky that he never had a career-ending injury. He's 100% now. He's just playing a bit of catch-up now. So today the idea is a run here and then intentionally go on to Aintree for the 2.5-mile Grade 1 hurdle race before he goes chasing.
Did you really feel this season, if he hadn't turned into a champion hurdle horse, which he hasn't, it's kind of marking time, really? Yeah. You're just waiting for next year.
Yeah, he'll go chasing in October. And in a lot of ways, by him having had a break and not, you don't want any horse to have a small injury, but I haven't been chasing around running in Christmas hurdles and different things like that. He's had almost had an easier season, and he did a super piece of work last Sunday morning at Wincanton with Stage Star. So he's ready to run, but he will improve. He's bound to improve fitness-wise because it's his first run of the season.
And are there any secret weapons lurking in there we haven't seen yet?
No, I don't think so. I thought I ran a really nice horse yesterday, Pleasant Man at Kempton. I was hoping he'd run well in the Adonis, but he sadly bled. He jumped the third last. He was never going. So he's probably a typical big, strong horse who wants a summer and he'll be all right next autumn. Okay. We thought he's a nice horse, and he still will be a very nice horse. Just wants some time.
And how are you still restocking a lot from France? Is that still a?
We bought a nice horse last week that went out there, and actually we bought a couple of Irish pointers recently in Ireland and at the sale. So we're always restocking, and soon be time to start looking for some nice new 3-year-olds for the summer.
All right, Paul, thanks so much.
Okay, thank you very much.